Have you ever wondered why all of a sudden a man who seemed interested in you starts to pull away? He doesn't reply to your messages, he's cold in conversations, or he just disappears for a few days. And in your head, a whirlwind of doubts appears. Has he lost interest? Did I do something wrong? Did he never really like me? Today we're going to dive deep into the male mind to understand what really happens when a man ignores you. And I'll tell you right now, it's not always about a lack of love or interest. Often the answer lies in emotional, psychological, and even biological factors that shape how men deal with feelings and relationships. Imagine you're in a relationship, or even starting one, and suddenly that man who used to text you every day takes hours to respond. You feel invisible, rejected, as if you've lost your place in his life. The truth is that almost every woman has been through this at some point, and almost every man has behaved this way too. And here's the thing. Men and women don't process emotions the same way. While many women prefer to talk, express their feelings, and seek clarity, many men prefer to shut down, isolate themselves, and even create a kind of emotional silence. And that silence, to those on the other side, can seem like ignorance, coldness, or a lack of love. But is that really all there is to it? In this video, you'll discover why male silence is often a form of emotional protection, what goes through a man's mind when he distances himself from you, the two main reasons why a man truly falls in love, and how understanding this can completely change the way you view relationships. And I want you to stay until the end, because there I'll show you real stories that reveal, in a clear and even surprising way, how men think and feel when they ignore someone they love. But before we dive in, I need you to understand one important thing. Being ignored doesn't automatically mean you're not loved. Often, men face internal struggles that they don't share with anyone. These can be financial pressures, personal insecurities, fear of not living up to expectations, or even difficulty dealing with deeper feelings. And when this happens, instead of talking, many choose to remain silent. This behavior may seem cruel, but it is rooted in something that comes from male upbringing. From an early age, many men learn that showing vulnerability is a sign of weakness, that feeling too much is dangerous, that asking for help can be shameful. And guess what? When they reach adulthood, they carry this idea that walking away is easier than explaining. So, if you've ever experienced the pain of being ignored, this video will open your mind. You'll understand that behind that silence, there may be a world of hidden reasons. Some have to do with him, others have to do with how he feels about you. And in the end, you'll realize that understanding the male mind isn't just about understanding men. It's about understanding yourself, strengthening your self-esteem, and above all, learning not to let yourself be destroyed by attitudes that often have nothing to do with your worth. Get ready, because from now on, we're going to decipher the mysteries of male behavior together and find out what's really going on in a man's head when he ignores you. When we talk about love and relationships, many people believe that men and women feel the same way. But the truth is that the male mind works very differently, and this may explain why he sometimes seems distant or even indifferent. To begin with, we need to understand something basic. Men tend to process emotions more internally than externally. While many women feel the need to talk, vent, and share, men often prefer to keep things to themselves. That doesn't mean they don't feel. On the contrary, they feel a lot, but the way they deal with it is different. Think about how many boys are raised. From an early age, they hear phrases like, "Swallow your tears." "Men don't complain." "Be strong." These phrases shape their minds, creating the idea that expressing feelings is synonymous with weakness. So as adults, these men carry the belief that when faced with emotional problems, the best solution is silence. Now, imagine a man in love. He may feel afraid of losing you, afraid of not being good enough, afraid of being rejected. But instead of talking about these fears, he closes himself off. For him, this is a way of protecting himself. The problem is that from the outside, this closure seems like pure ignorance. Another important point is that the male mind associates love with responsibility. When a man starts to really like someone, the emotional weight increases. He starts to think about how he's going to sustain this relationship, how he's going to maintain his strong image in front of you, and how he's not going to disappoint you. And when that pressure becomes too much, the natural reaction is to pull away. It's as if his mind is saying, "I need space to think before I act." This explains why many men can be deeply in love, but still disappear for a few days, become colder, or seem distracted. It's not because they don't care, but because they are trying to reorganize their feelings. And here's a curious detail. Men don't usually like to deal with direct emotional conflicts. For them, a serious conversation can be seen as a battle they don't want to lose. So instead of talking, they prefer to avoid it. But avoiding often means ignoring. But be careful. This doesn't mean that all distancing is positive or healthy. There is a fine line between a man who distances himself to organize his feelings and a man who distances himself because he has truly lost interest. The difference is in the signals he gives, and that's what we'll start exploring in the next few sections. First, though, I want you to keep one key idea in mind. Male silence is more about him than it is about you. When he ignores you, most of the time it's not to hurt you, but because he's stuck in his own way of dealing with emotions. Understanding this doesn't mean accepting everything silently, but rather understanding that the game of love isn't just about what you feel. It's also about how the other person has learned to feel. In the next section, we'll reveal the first big reason why men really fall in love. And when you understand this reason, it will become much clearer why certain behaviors seem contradictory. Now we come to one of the most important parts. The first big reason why men truly fall in love. It may seem simple, but it is extremely powerful. Men fall in love with those who awaken in them a sense of admiration and respect. Yes, of course, beauty attracts attention. Of course, physical appearance can be attractive. But what really makes a man fall deeply in love is not just what he sees, but what he feels when he is with you. Think of it this way. A man may be charmed by a smile, an appearance, or light conversation, but what really keeps him is when he feels that by your side, he is seen, valued, and respected. This activates something very deep in the male mind, the need to be recognized. From childhood, many men grow up with the desire to prove their worth. They want to be strong. They want to be capable. They want to be recognized as someone who can protect and build. And when a woman awakens this feeling, it's as if she touches a central point of his identity. Have you ever noticed how some men seem to transform around certain women? Suddenly, they become more confident, happier, more willing to make an effort. This happens because that woman, without realizing it, makes him feel important, and that is addictive to the male mind. But be careful, we're not talking about flattery or empty compliments. What really captivates a man is the feeling that he can be himself around you and still be admired. When he realizes that you don't compare him to others, that you don't diminish his achievements, but rather value his small victories, it creates an invisible and powerful connection. And here's a detail that many people don't realize. Men don't fall in love with the most beautiful woman in the room, but with the woman who makes them feel like the most capable man in the world. That's the real key. That's why we so often see seemingly inexplicable relationships. Perhaps you've seen an incredible man with a woman who, in the eyes of others, didn't seem that special. But to him, she was unique. And do you know why? Because she knew how to awaken in him that feeling of being admired and respected. Now pay attention. When a man feels that he is not valued, he may even like her. He may even feel desire. But he is unlikely to dive headfirst into the relationship. The lack of admiration erodes the bond, makes him pull away, makes him seem cold. On the other hand, when he feels that he is recognized, he gives himself over, he opens up, he puts energy into the relationship. So, if you want to understand why a man ignores you or pulls away, the answer is often right here. Maybe he feels he doesn't have the space to be who he is. Maybe he feels he is not seen, not respected, not admired, and that hurts deeply in the male mind. This is the first big reason why men fall in love. Admiration. It is the fuel that feeds passion, the desire to be close, the desire to fight for you. In the next section, I will show you real stories and examples that prove how this works in practice. You will see how, in everyday situations, the key to male love was not expensive gifts or seduction games, but something much simpler: the power to make a man feel truly valued. To help you better understand how admiration is the basis of male passion, I will share some examples that show this happening in practice. Imagine the story of Carla and Marcos. Carla was a simple woman. She didn't have the physique that the media values so much, but she had something special. She truly believed in Marcos's potential. He always wanted to start a small business, but was afraid it wouldn't work out. Carla, instead of criticizing him or comparing him to other people, would say, "I know you can do it. You have talent. You just need to believe in yourself more." These words, spoken sincerely, made Marcos fall madly in love with her. He didn't fall in love because Carla was perfect, but because she made him feel capable. Now think about the case of Juliana and Andre. Juliana was very beautiful and attracted attention wherever she went. Andre was initially enchanted by her appearance, but over time he realized that Juliana was always critical, always belittling his ideas, always comparing him to other men. The result, no matter how attracted he was to her, he was never able to give himself completely. The charm of beauty was not enough to sustain love. Do you see the difference? While Carla aroused admiration in Marcos, Juliana only made Andre feel inadequate. What really connects us is not appearance, but the way someone makes us feel. Another example comes from a situation you may have experienced or witnessed. A man who next to one woman seems ordinary, dull, but when he is with another, he is transformed. He becomes more confident, more smiling, more willing to fight for his dreams. This happens because the second woman knew how to touch the central point. She made him feel valued, not with false compliments, but with simple gestures, a look of pride, a word of encouragement, sincere recognition. And here's a powerful detail. Men rarely admit this out loud. They won't say, "I need you to admire me." But internally, this is one of the greatest emotional needs they carry. When they don't find it, they close themselves off, pull away, or even look elsewhere. This also explains why many men who ignore you are not necessarily without love. Sometimes they are just trying to deal with the emptiness of not feeling important. When he feels he is not admired, his instinct is to protect himself, retreat, and remain silent. Now see how this works in the long run. A couple that builds a relationship based on mutual admiration creates an almost unbreakable bond, because when he feels valued, he naturally returns the favor with more attention, care, and love. The cycle feeds itself. On the other hand, when admiration is lacking, the cycle is negative. He pulls away, she demands more, he closes himself off even more, and the relationship wears down. These stories show that the key is not in grand gestures, games of seduction, or trying to guess what he wants. The key is in something much simpler, how you make him feel when he is with you. And it is precisely this logic that we will take to the next point. Because in addition to admiration, there is a second reason that is just as powerful, which also explains why men really fall in love, and at the same time, why they can ignore you. Now that you understand that admiration is the first big key to male love, let's move on to the second reason why men really fall in love. And this one is even deeper. Men fall in love with those who bring emotional peace and inner security. Many people believe that men are only looking for excitement, desire, or conquest. But the truth is that deep down, when he decides to truly commit, what he is looking for is tranquility. He wants to be with someone he doesn't have to justify himself to all the time. Someone he doesn't live with in a battlefield. Someone he can simply be himself with, without fear of judgment. Have you noticed how many men seem strong on the outside but carry silence and insecurity on the inside? They may not show it, but the pressures of life, the demands of work, financial responsibility, and even personal fears weigh heavily on their minds every day. And when they find a woman who, instead of adding to that weight, offers relief, comfort, and peace, their hearts surrender. This is one of the most hidden secrets of the male mind. A man may be enchanted by intensity, but he only truly falls in love with calmness. While admiration awakens pride and the will to fight in him, emotional peace awakens the desire to stay, to build, to surrender. Here's a simple example. A man may be attracted to a woman who is fun, who draws attention, who challenges him. But if at the same time she causes him anxiety, mistrust, or an atmosphere of constant tension, he may even like her, but he is unlikely to surrender himself. On the other hand, when he finds a woman who is able to listen without criticizing, who conveys confidence, who doesn't turn every detail into a war, he falls in love with that feeling of refuge. And here's a fundamental difference. Superficial passion is born of intensity, novelty, adrenaline. True passion is born of peace, security, emotional relief. That's why so many men, when describing the woman of their lives, say things like, "She calms me down. She understands me. She brings me peace." And notice something curious. When a man finds that peace, he doesn't want to lose it at all, because in the outside world he faces pressure, demands, and competition all the time. If he finds tranquility at home, or alongside the one he loves, it becomes a true treasure. Now, connecting with the theme of this video, often when he ignores or distances himself, It may be precisely because he feels he has not found that peace. Perhaps he is noticing constant conflicts, exaggerated criticism, or the feeling that he needs to defend himself all the time. For the male mind, this is exhausting, and instead of facing the situation head-on, many choose to remain silent, distance themselves, hide. But the opposite is also true. When he finds emotional peace, he not only stays but gets closer and closer. He feels like sharing, opening his heart, letting his defenses down. And that's where mature love is born, the kind that goes beyond initial attraction and turns into something lasting. So, keep this in mind. The second big reason why men fall in love is the peace you convey. Because for them, more than beauty, status, or appearance, what really matters is how they feel when they're with you. In the next and final section, I'll put all these pieces together, share stories that prove the second reason, and bring you to a powerful conclusion that will change the way you see male silence forever. To understand how admiration and emotional peace really work in practice, let's go back to some stories that illustrate this clearly. Consider the case of Rafael and Fernanda. Rafael was a very hard-working man, but always insecure about his own worth. When he met Fernanda, she not only believed in him, but also celebrated every little achievement. If he fixed something at home, she would say, "You're amazing. I could never have done it myself." These simple but sincere words awakened in him a feeling of being admired. Over time, Rafael not only fell deeply in love, but also became more confident. He didn't want to be apart from her, because when he was with her, he felt valuable. Now look at the example of Carlos and Ana. Carlos had always lived in high-pressure environments, intense work, demanding family, busy life. When he met Ana, he realized that with her it was different. She didn't demand immediate answers. She didn't turn every problem into a conflict. She knew how to listen, and she knew how to respect his silences. For him, being with Ana was like finding a safe haven. The result? He fell in love not only with the woman she was, but with the peace she conveyed. And because of that, he never wanted to let go of that connection. These stories show something essential. Men may seem tough, disconnected, or distant, but deep down, they seek exactly the same things we all do: recognition and tranquility. Their silence, so often interpreted as rejection, is often just an attempt to organize these internal feelings. Now let's conclude this journey. When a man ignores you, it doesn't automatically mean he doesn't like you. In many cases, it's just a reflection of how he's learned to deal with emotions. If he doesn't feel admired, he may shut down. If he doesn't find emotional peace, he may pull away. These are the two main pillars that sustain male passion. And most importantly, understanding this doesn't mean accepting any behavior, but rather seeing situations more clearly. When you know how the male mind works, you stop blaming yourself, you stop thinking that you're not enough, and you start to see that each of his actions says much more about him than about you. The big lesson is, a healthy relationship is born when there is a balance between admiration and peace. He needs to feel valued, and you need to feel respected. He needs to find peace by your side, and you also need to find peace by his side. Without this, his silence becomes empty. But with this, silence can even be a space for reflection, without fear, without insecurity. So the next time he ignores you, remember, don't jump to conclusions. Observe the signs, understand what may be happening, and above all, value yourself. Because when you know yourself, when you admire yourself and convey your own peace, you naturally attract those who know how to recognize that value. And if this content made sense to you, don't forget to leave your like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. Here, we always bring you real reflections based on male psychology, so that you can better understand not only men, but also yourself. Thank you for staying until the end. And remember, understanding male silence can be the first step in transforming the way you love and are loved.